Welcome everyone, this is Tactical Lich here, and today we have a battle sent in by viewer Dardy Singh. Interesting enough, despite having Warriors of Chaos and Slaanesh, we are not seeing a single Hellstrider on the field. Instead, both players are going for an infantry heavy approach, going for mass infantry deployment and maybe a few monsters or flyers, just for a bit more options on the field and mix things up. Now, for army builds, we have Marauders on the front line here for the Warriors of Chaos, backed up by Chaos Warriors, some heavy metal roadblock, and further back more Chaos Warriors, this time with Halberd, in case they have to deal with monsters and cavalry. And then there is a single unit of one of my favorite infantry, the Aspiring Champions. Extremely low model count, but extremely elite with great armor, great melee stats, high weapon damage with splash attacks. If they get a frontal engagement against demonic infantry, they will be trading efficiently with their magical attacks. Now for the other units, we have a single Chaos Giant and also two Feral Manticore in the skies. Leading the army, we have Archaon, the Ever-Chosen, rocking a few spells actually. Other than his personal self-buffing items, there's also Flaming Sword of Ruin, Burning Head, Spirit Leech, and the Searing Doom. Now for the Slaanesh army, we have a lot of infantry as well, devoted Marauders of Slaanesh with Hell Scourges with their extra melee defenses, a heavy infantry, the Mirror Guard, providing some extra backbone in the front line, and further back we have a bunch of Daemonites of Slaanesh. Great melee stats and also armor piercing magical attacks. They should do decently against the Chaos Warriors. Also, there is a couple Exalted Daemonites of Slaanesh in the middle, further bolstering the Slaanesh infantry lines with even more elite melee infantry. Two more devoted Marauders, this time with swords, and then leading the army, Prince Sigvald the Magnificent. As always, a solid lord choice with his healing, self-buffs, and elite melee stats. As for mobility, we have a single Chaos Furies of Slaanesh, and that's basically it. No caster whatsoever from the Slaanesh, and so we'll see if the extra infantry and Sigvald the OP Magnificent can carry the game for the Slaanesh army. Without any cavalry or missiles, this fight will be very straightforward. Infantry clashing infantry, and the spotlight will be onto the single entity fights, as they will greatly dictate how the battle will go. Now over here we can see that the Slaanesh Fury is trying to get into a flanking position for a rear charge, but overshooting by quite a bit as the Chaos formation is marching towards the Slaanesh army. Back to the front line, we can see that Marauders are clashing against Marauders, some unblessed northern tribesmen charging into the devotees of Slaanesh. This is not the greatest engagement for them, as the Slaanesh Marauders does have extra melee defense from the Hell Scourge and also physical resistance from Slaanesh marking. There are more Chaos Warriors coming into the fight as well, using their heavy armor as a bulwark, attempting to hold back the tide of Slaanesh infantry onslaught. But the spotlight of the fight, as I've said before, will be on the single entity fight. Sigvald the OP Magnificent, yes, he is tanky but only during long grinds, but when there is a source of reliable burst damage, his healing would not be able to keep up. Yes, Sigvald has high armor, but the weapon strength on the Manticores are pretty high as well. And on top of that, Archaon has activated his Slayer of Kings, a massive 75% weapon damage boost. As a result, the Slaanesh Prince is definitely not enjoying his life right now. Over here, Mirror Guard surrounding the Chaos Giant, not exactly a great fight for them, as the Chaos Giant did get buffed and now just trashing all kinds of infantry with the nice splash armor piercing damage. A Burning Head dropped down the line here, roasting a lot of their friendly units for the Chaos Warriors, since Archaon doesn't care for his minions. A Searing Doom dropped onto the Mirror Guard doing some nice damage and not a lot of friendly fire this time, a much better cast. Although the Chaos Warriors, due to their heavy armor, did mitigate most of that Burning Head damage. Now Aspiring Champions will also be engaging in the fight, as they do have great melee stats. With 45 melee defense, they can tank quite efficiently, even against the Daemonites of Slaanesh. On top of that, their high magical weapon strength that also does splash damage will be extremely effective against the lightly armored Slaanesh troops. Now the Chaos Warriors are completely surrounded by a lot of Daemonites of Slaanesh. They are fighting their way out of it, holding on with their high melee defense and armor. While over here, the Warriors of Chaos are victorious, routing the Sigvald no longer OP Magnificent, consolidating with their infantry. And some devoted Marauders also flanked around, but their lack of armor piercing will not be able to punch through the Chaos Warriors with Halberd's heavy armor. While over here, there is a very healthy unit of Exalted Daemonites, and a Feral Manticore is rampaging straight into them. A very bad engagement for them since they do have quite low melee stats, and the Exalted Daemonites with their 52 melee attack and armor piercing will easily rip through the Chaos Feral Manticore's defenses, not that they have any high armor anyways. At the same time, Archaon is spamming those Searing Doom bombardments, hoping to thin out the Slaanesh forces. Still, the Chaos Warriors, despite being surrounded and outnumbered, they are not outmatched. The Hellscourge Marauders simply struggle to punch through the Chaos Warriors' defenses, while at the back the Chaos Giant continues to pummel the Mirror Guards with a bit of fight or die buff. In the skies, the Feral Manticore is fighting a bunch of Slaanesh Furies, which is not exactly a great engagement for the Manticore. The numbers advantage of the Chaos Furies allow them to surround the Chaos Feral Manticore and provide some flanking attacks, ignoring its melee stats and doing some very efficient damage. Now back to the Chaos left flank, where Archaon is pulling away as his warriors have secured the left flank, eliminating most of the Slaanesh forces, and should be able to move on to another flank, which is exactly what they need as the right flank is collapsing under the overwhelming forces of Slaanesh. Even Sigvald has regrouped from that route, healing up quite a bit, ready to engage once again. So Archaon will be dropping in some spell support here, Searing Doom, melting a whole bunch of Slaanesh units with the Molten Metal. The Slaanesh player tried to dodge but not exactly successful. Now, Prince Sigvald being surrounded by his own marauders, it will be quite hard for Archaon to snipe him out. Not chasing down Sigvald earlier will definitely bite Archaon in the back later. Right now, the Slaanesh player is trying their best to buy time for Sigvald to regenerate, getting some help from a very healthy Exalted Daemonite returning from the far side of the battlefield. With the reinforcements, Slaanesh was able to overwhelm their opponents. This pocket of Chaos Warriors are completely broken, leaving only Archaon in the fight, surrounded by devoted marauders, while in the skies, the Chaos Furies are slowly working down the Feral Manticore. Now back to the left flank, the Chaos Warriors are mopping up some remaining devoted marauders of Slaanesh, especially with the Aspiring Champions doing some decent work here. Slaanesh tries to slow them down with a Fascination, draining the health of some Warriors of Chaos, but that's not going to be of much use since the warriors have already emerged superior in this flank. Now back to the right flank, where Archaon has extracted himself from the blob. He will now be putting his sight back onto Sigvald, trying to hunt him down. While Archaon is busy catching up with Sigvald, we'll do a bit of fast forward. But with so many supporting troops from Slaanesh, he is surrounded and Sigvald was able to punch back very efficiently, especially with Sliver Slash activated, sundering Archaon's armor and also buffing Sigvald's weapon strength. And Archaon, the ever-chosen, despite that buffed up melee defense, will need to extract himself of this fight, especially with the armor-piercing Exalted Daemonite, lowering his melee stats even further. On the far side, the Manticore trying its best to rout off the Slaanesh Marauders, but with immune to psychology, they will hold on for a slight bit longer. At the same time, we can see that Archaon hurriedly runs past these units trying to get away from Sigvald, and Sigvald chasing after him is in turn being hunted down by the big giant, who is using his big old piece of wood to whack Sigvald in the face. That is most certainly going to hurt, but as a Slaanesh champion, Sigvald might enjoy it. We don't know for sure, but what is for sure is that Sigvald is still regenerating, trying to tank out this fight with his auric armor. The Daemonites are still holding all thanks to their lack of routing mechanic. Sigvald might be getting low and close to his healing cap, but there is still a small chance for him to turn the tables. Though that chance is getting smaller and smaller every time the giant comes in and slaps Sigvald in the face with his giant piece of wood. At this point, the Slaanesh army is extremely close to army losses and is almost done for. It just needs someone like say Archaon to deliver that killing blow, coming in the form of a Spirit Leech, suppressing the regeneration of Prince Sigvald and doing some more damage. With all the other units fading away in the Slaanesh army, Sigvald, as much as he enjoys being slapped by giant pieces of wood, will then be shattered by army losses. Big thanks to Darty Singh for sending in this replay, as this is quite an interesting battle for sure. No mobility, just pure infantry grind. As you can see here, the Warriors of Chaos have emerged victorious, simply because a lot of their resources can outgrind Slaanesh, with the Aspiring Champions, most of their units intact by the end of the battle, earning back quite a bit of value with their high armor, high melee stats, and great splash damage with their decent magical weapon strength. That gives them a steady damage output against the Slaanesh units over a prolonged period of time, while the Slaanesh units cannot do much damage to them simply because they cannot punch through their melee stats. Their high armor allows them to shrug off the damage from marauders, while their melee defense helps them to mitigate the armor-piercing damage from the Daemonette. As for the Chaos Warriors and Marauders getting wiped out by the Slaanesh marked Marauders as well as the Daemonettes, but the Chaos Warriors, they bought enough time for the rest of the army to do the job. These warriors do have some pretty decent melee defenses. They can't do a lot of damage against the Slaanesh army, especially with their physical resistance, but they were able to just hold out as long as possible against the Marauders and Daemonettes, and then that gives the Chaos Giant time to smack down the Mirror Guard and Archaon the Ever-Chosen to drop in a lot of Searing Doom, Burning Head, and snipe out Sigvald as well, getting a lot of kills with the AoE magic support, and the Slayer of Kings is definitely slaying today, doing massive damage to Prince Sigvald. And of course, there are a couple Manticores as part of the Single Entity Goon squad. One of them didn't do much damage here, being probably counter-attacked and brought down by Prince Sigvald, but the other one probably got a good charge against Sigvald, or got multiple good charges and recovered all its value and then some more. Now for the Slaanesh army, the Hellscourge Marauders didn't do much damage as most of them were mitigated by the heavy armor on the Warriors of Chaos, while the Daemonettes not getting a lot of value overall. One of the Exalted Daemonettes probably recovered their value, but not the other ones. Their light armor makes them quite vulnerable to the counter attacks from the Warriors of Chaos, especially with the Aspiring Champions doing magic damage. And then of course the Searing Doom and the Burning Head clear out a substantial amount of the Slaanesh infantry. And then the Chaos Furies, they're being tangled up by the Chaos Feral Manticore. Now they did not get a lot of value simply because the Chaos Feral Manticore is much more expensive than them and can fight more effectively in the skies, but they also did some, well, okay damage overall and distracted the Manticore long enough. As for the Furies, not a lot of damage, spending most of its time fighting the Manticore in the skies. The high weapon strength of the Manticore definitely is their downfall. They should have probably go for some rear charges with their armor-piercing attacks instead. For the Mirror Guard here, most of the time they were fighting the Chaos Giant, and not exactly a great engagement for them, as the Chaos Giant is great against infantry, especially when they are blobbed up with the massive armor-piercing splash damage with his big old piece of wood. And then last but not least, Prince Sigvald the Magnificent. In the early game, he almost got sniped out by a combination of single entities from the Warriors of Chaos side, but in the end, he actually came back into the fight once again with his auric armor healing him, and almost took down Archaon with the Sliver Slash armor sundering, as well as that weapon strength buff. But still, with the combination of a Chaos Giant, a Manticore dive bombing him, and also Archaon's Spirit Leeching counteracting his healing, he was not able to hold his ground and carry the game by himself. And yeah, that's basically it for today's battle. I hope viewers you enjoy it. If you do and want to see more, be sure to hit the like and subscribe to receive updates when I upload new videos. And if you have your own replays that you want to showcase, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check them out. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.